Hey, I'm Jonathan McMasters,
And I'm Joy McMasters.
and we are doing the McMasters Chronicles. This is a story about our lives, past, present, and I guess you can say future, what we're going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
But we just wanted to first start a video here, our first video, and tell you a little bit about what happened to us about a year ago now. This really has defined a lot of our lives, and we just wanted to share it with you because of the impact that it had on us, and we want to be able to get the word out there in case this is able to help anybody that might be in a similar situation that we were in. Just to give a little bit of a background before we get into what actually happened starting a year ago. We grew up in the same church for our entire lives. I was a pastor's kid for most of my life because that's an interesting story. And there was the head pastor for many, many years while we were in another city before we moved to North Carolina. He was very much in my life. Yeah, we've got a lot of animals, so you can meet our dog Lawrence and one of our cats Watson. But anyway, to go back to our story, so we had it was a pretty small church. We had about 100 people at one point, and then it dwindled over the years to where when this time last year there was about 25, 27 people in the congregation. But just to give you context about who these people were, the lead pastor was very close to my family. My family was very close to them. There's a lot of not great things that happened in my childhood between me and my dad, and this gentleman was sort of like a father figure to me. He was there for me in hard times. He was, he was just very much in my life. I respected pretty much everything he said. He was pretty much who, if he said something, then I believed that it was directly from God. I believed that God was saying it. I believed that I needed to follow it because he was saying, and he would say that even to us. And then his son, who actually became the lead pastor when we moved up to North Carolina, he was one of my closest friends. Again, same very close relationship. I have a lot of medical history, been through a lot of surgeries, and I can explain all of that maybe in a future video, but they always would come to my surgeries, either the father or the son. One of them was at pretty much every single one of my surgeries. And so just to give you that little bit of a background, they were very involved in my life. They were very involved in everything I did, and I thought that is exactly how it needed to be. That's how I grew up. That's how my dad was. My dad talked with the elder, pastor emeritus, you can call it, very closely, daily, to figure out what he needed to do in his life. And I followed suit. So just to give you a little bit of a context, we're then members about a year ago of a church of about 25 to 27 people. And these people were that close to us in our lives.
Yeah.
My dad and I had actually worked together too for many years building a business. My dad started it. He opened a family business, making a food product, packaging it, selling it direct to consumer, getting into a lot of mom and pop shops and that's how he ended up supporting his family. And so the plan for many, many years was for me to take over the business. He was going to pass it down and I was going to take over the business and run it. And so I did back in 2023. He passed it on to me and I took over the business. So I owned the business in 2023, took over ownership of it. And a little bit more context to this is I also owned my own business of a service business at the same time. And I worked full time at another job. So I was pretty busy at this time. And part of the reason why I was so busy was because our church congregation was so small. And yet all three pastors had to be provided for. It had been such a thing that they dictated what salary they needed and what salary they were going to get paid, and we had to provide that. No questions asked. There was never an excuse. It had to be done. So people left. More and more people left till it came down to, in 2023, I was literally the only man in the organization making money and providing for the church. None of the pastors did it. Nobody else did anything. I was providing what single-handedly for the church. Now, we can get into more of how I was doing that and what was happening and what led to me doing those things, because that was very damaging to us. But that was my goal, always to make as much money as possible so that I was able to honor God and provide for the church. That was what it was called, providing for the church. When in reality, it was providing for the 3 pastors' families, no matter how else it was.
And it was like we would want to, there would always be like, oh, if we just get to this point, if we just can pay this thing off, if we just
Make this
amount of money, then they would be settled, and then we can actually do ministry. We can actually put money into ministry. That never
happened.
The emphasis has always been on providing for the pastors.
That was it. For really my entire adult life. I graduated college in 2013, and that's actually when the Lord saved me. And from that point on, it wasn't just about spiritual growth. It wasn't about spiritual maturity and growing me in my life. It was about, you've got to provide for the pastors. You've got to go out there and make the money. We did things from selling candy to selling pizzas to selling cookies, all sorts of things. But candy became the main thing. If you're watching this, you may have seen us at a car dealership or a restaurant or somewhere selling candy. But it's because we had to do whatever it would take to make the money. So,
or risk the consequences. What were the consequences?
You had to give it, whether you had it or not.
Yep. You had to give it out of your own money.
And if you didn't have it, you couldn't take it from debt, but you still had to give it. So
how are you going to get it?
Right.
You're going to get it from debt.
So anyway, that's the context of where we were. And so my goal was to use the businesses that I had to make as much money as possible. Well, my dad had owned this business for quite some time, and the leader had been very involved with everything that was done with the business for many, many years, about what stores he got the food product in, where he sold it, what type of products he sold, what size packaging he sold it in, all of those things. Well, when I took it over, I was not so involved with this leader to get every single detail. So when I took the business over in 2023, I did not go to this leader for every single piece of advice and information of what I should do. I had already owned a business for many years, and I knew what I wanted to do to grow the business and get it to a point where it could be self-sustaining, where it could be more passive, because it was a product that was being sold. I realized that going out direct to consumer was not going to be sustainable and was not going to make the amount of money that we needed, because we were talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars a year providing for these people whenever you have a congregation of 25 to 27 people, and 10 of them being like 12 and under.
No.
So my goal was to grow the business as fast as I could and as big as I could. So I knew that the leader of this church did not like the idea of getting the food product into big chain stores. He told me that. He had never said directly, you cannot do this. He had just said, look at these options. Don't think about not doing it. It's going to be bad for you, with no basis for that, but just saying that he didn't want me to do it. But from a business standpoint, I was speaking with other leaders of the organization, and they 100% believed this was a great way to grow the business, because how else are you going to grow a business unless you sell more product and get it more regional and national? So I was successfully getting our food product into chain stores. I got it into one, and I had just gotten the approval for the second chain store of getting this food product in. When I told the leader this, he started questioning everything about what I was doing. He started questioning the profit that I was making on the one chain store the food product was already in. He started questioning everything about what I had done. So this was a Wednesday. 2024, July 24th, 2024. So we had church service that night. I went to the church service. We had service. Afterwards, there is not many people to talk to because there was 25 people in total. So we usually created a little circle at the front of the church, right near the stage, and talked. And that is when the abuse continued, I guess you could say, but also occurred. He started saying that I was deceiving him for many, many years by not talking to him about it, by going behind his back, when the entire time he knew everything that was going on and said nothing about it. He said that I was going behind his back and talking to the other leaders. Then he said I wasn't listening to him because I was doing what I wanted to do with my business and not following him. And he used that I wasn't following counsel, that I was being deceptive and manipulative. All of these things which are not true, because he knew every step of the way what was happening, what I was doing, and he said nothing about it. He would give his opinion, but he also had told me, I will give you my opinion. You do not always have to follow my opinion. People don't follow my opinion, but I will give it. So I took him at his word.
Yeah.
But
That's not
when
true.
it comes down to it, that wasn't true.
Yeah.
You had to do
You had
exactly
to
what
do
he said.
exactly what he said.
And at this point, he gave me the option of pulling my product out of all of those chain stores and only selling it in small mom and pop shops or direct to consumer. Or he was going to sue me in my business. And to put that in context, he had no legal standing in the business, no part of the business, nothing. And yet he threatened to sue me. Now, my belief is my dad was also part of the business, family member. I believe that he would have done it through my dad, but that is speculation. It's probably pretty accurate. Yeah. But so he took it a step further and he cursed me for it. He said, damn you for getting this food product into these chain stores and making it a big product, not just a family product, which I'm not going to get into all the details about that right now, but that's what he said. So one thing that he really liked to do is he would always say, I never tell you what to do. You make the choice. I give you options and you make the choice. So let me give you a really clear example. This is a great example because he's saying that he's technically giving me options, that either I keep it in chain stores and he sues me, or I don't do it. Now, that is not an option. That is not a realistic option. That is a manipulative, coercive option. That is a threat. Yeah.
It's a threat.
So that was all happening right in the middle of the church building with all of the pastors, all of the members, the ladies, my wife.
I was there.
All there.
I was there. And so